Laughing aloud now, magic in the air. Wands roll around us, cast away our care. Friends in the hallways, adventures we find. Spells and enchantments, trouble on our mind. That's always it.
Good morning and welcome. It's about 9:30 in the morning here at Site V on the 7th day of November 2024. Happy holidays. It is smoky and scary here right now at Site B. As you know, Ventura County is experiencing its yearly massive fire. I might get evacuated. I don't know. All I know is my house smells like barbecue, which is both frightening and makes me salivate because I love me some barbecue. And speaking of barbecue or fires, it's time to talk about Wizards of the Coast. I'm sort of kind of responding both to a video our good friends over at the Pickled Dragon just did, and the general, this is the time of year where everybody makes videos about how D&D is dead, or how the OSR is dead, or how the hobby is dead. So they made a video over at Dracoya and the Pickled Dragon about how Wizards of the Coast doesn't want to make sales to old fucks like myself. And we are no longer the target audience. And my response would be, this is something new to you? They've been very clear about the fact that the OSR, the OGL, the old school, whatever you want to call people like me, are no longer the target audience and haven't been the target audience for a long time. And on the surface, that's perfectly fine. That's just good business. It is necessary for any product line to evolve and change with its audience to remain consistently profitable. And the target audience for Dungeons and Dragons have always been kids. It's a toy. It's in the Toy Hall of Fame. It has always been a children's game, ages 12 through 20. The fact that it has this amazing lifespan that 50,000-year-old fucks like me are still playing it, well, that's just amazing and wonderful and shows the appeal of role-playing and make-believe to people, but that's never been the marching orders. You know, it's for kids. Kids have changed. The audience has changed. The world has changed. We had a pandemic. We had the elections. We have whatever's coming on. You know, old guys who are playing in the 70s, a lot of us are gone. A lot of the people, you know, have sailed west. A lot of people I played with when I was a kid have left us. It's very sad to know a lot of the people, you know, for whatever reasons. The fact that I'm still here is amazing, according to my cardiologist. So on the surface, there's nothing wrong with them saying, we don't feel you're our target audience anymore. We're gearing our advertising and our promotion towards the individuals who we think are our target audience. And that would be 100% business 101 for any other corporation on the planet and pretty much any other target line on the planet. Except, of course, Dungeons and Dragons is a niche product, much like Hot Wheels or action figures, that appeals to a wide customer base. There are 55-year-old people who still play with Hot Wheels and still play D&D and still collect action figures. And there's 12-year-olds who buy Hot Wheels, collect action figures, and play D&D. And you have to understand that when you have a hobby niche, just because your target base is still consistently one age range, there's still outliers that you need to appeal to, especially if those outliers are older individuals who have a disposable income. Who do you think buys the most Hot Wheels? It's not kids, it's collectors. It's, you know, 22, 32, 42, 52-year-old collectors who now have the financial wherewithal to look back at their childhood and go, wow, I really wanted that when I was a kid, and now I can afford it. Same with video games. Most of the video game purchases are by older people who couldn't play them or afford them when they were kids. The same goes for D&D. I spend more money on D&D now than I did when I was a kid because I have more money. And I assume a lot of the other 45 plus gamers who have been playing since the dawn of time are now in a financial position to go back and go, wow, I never had a chance to pick up the latest product from the OGGM when it was available yesterday, but now I do, and I should go back and buy it. Or more realistically, you know, I never had a chance to get a copy of Champions, or, you know, Moldovi box set, or Boot Hill. Now I do, and now there's PDFs and PODs and reprints and copies that I can afford. And if I want to spend $50, $100 on a box set of Twilight 2000, or $5 on the latest product from the OGGM, I can. And most every other company that makes those things, niche products, collectible products, whether it be baseball cards, Hot Wheels, action figures, video games, D&D, whatever, understand that. Most companies understand that 80% of our target audience is X, but that 20% is Y, is the older people who have the disposable income. And we need to keep them as happy as we do the others. That's why so many different toy lines have, like, you know, special edition runs. Power Rangers has the Lightning Collection. Star Wars has the Black Collection, where you have those upper echelon collector pieces. And Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop role-playing game obviously has a wide way to appreciate current and older content. So for Wizards to come out and say old fucks like the OGGM aren't really our customer base anymore, that's fine. Now, you shouldn't be surprised. They've been saying that for years. They've been saying that for years. You will notice on this thing that nowhere does it say build a playable game. They've made it very clear. Now, unfortunately, unlike every other company, Wizards of the Coast has chosen to do it in a very self-destructive way. Wizards of the Coast has chosen to do it in a very insulting way. For whatever reason, in order to appease the non-existent audience that they think they have, they've chosen to hang a lot of very hurtful labels on the older players. It's not just that we don't want you spending money on our product. You're horrible people. If you played D&D before 2014, you're awful. And Wizards of the Coast wants to continue to perpetuate that, continues to want to hang that title on people like me. Not only do I not want your money, you eat babies, hang out with zombies, and step on baby chicks, right? That is the Wizards of the Coast image that they want for people like us. But in Wizards of the Coast defense, a lot of people like us, like myself, devote countless hours every year posting video after video after video telling people how much they hate Wizards of the Coast, how much they hate Wizards of the Coast product line, how much they hate 5e, how much they hate 5e players, how much they hate the current audience. Whether that's actually true or not, they survive on their YouTube content being unbelievably negative for people who are playing now or people who support Wizards of the Coast. So in Wizards of the Coast defense, you're telling me you hate me. You're saying all these awful things about me. And let's face it, some of these videos and statements people have made about 5e players or the green-haired crowd or the woke crowd are disgusting and vile. I see some of these videos both today and 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago that people on my side of the fence posted, and they disgusted me. I was ashamed. I mean, there's reasons why I don't associate with certain gaming organizations anymore. And there's reasons why there's certain gaming organizations I won't be associating with in the future, because they said, threatened, just awful, vomitous things. So if I'm Wizards of the Coast and I see you posting video after video after video after video for the past 5-10 years about how much you hate me, about how much you want me to die, of course you're not my target audience. I don't want your money. You're awful. So I got to give Wizards of the Coast a little bit of a, okay, yeah, including myself, have said some pretty awful things about you in the past. And I'll probably say some pretty awful things about Wizards of the Coast in the future because I do not think they are treating the Dungeons and Dragons product line appropriately. Also, a lot of these people say they hate D&D and they're never going to play it and they're never going to spend money on it, yet they make countless videos about what's wrong with D&D. Well, you don't play it, so how do you know? You don't associate with people, so how do you know? You just blanketly hate it. I play 5e. I run 5e. I love 5e. I hang out with 5e players. I'm still doing 5e. I have no problem with it. Sure, there's assholes in the 5e crowd, but there's assholes in every gaming crowd. Most of us are assholes, let's face it. The problem is not that Wizards of the Coast is gearing the product line towards a specific age range. The problem is that they have forgotten that there are other fans of older who have disposable income who want to spend $50, $60, $80, $100, $200 on a product because they can, and they want that product to be worth their time and energy. That's the part Wizards of the Coast doesn't get. And sure, like I said a second ago, some of that is understandable considering what we say about them, but the rest makes no fucking sense. Why wouldn't you want people who are willing to spend $150 on a product to spend $150 on a product? Hot Wheels understands this. Hasbro understands this with the Lightning Collection. Every other niche product company out there understands this. That's why you see special editions of video games, deluxe super limited runs of comic books. We can afford it. We can appreciate it. We want it. Why won't you make it for us? The blanket statement that Wizards is not going to market towards people like us anymore, that old fucks like me aren't their target audience, is dumb. And then furthermore, to continue to hang these negative titles on the older fan base is destructive to them because you just get this reputation of just being horrible gossip mongers. We're as bad as the people as Wizards of the Coast, and Wizards of the Coast says, well, we're as bad as you and you're as bad as us and blah, blah, blah. And this little toxic culture war between the various gaming fences doesn't help the hobby, doesn't help Wizards of the Coast, doesn't help me, doesn't help kids who just want to play. It just perpetuates this negative environment. And Wizards of the Coast can't seem to get out of the hole they dug for themselves long before the OGL crisis. This has been going on since Tasha's. This has been going on since 4th edition. This has been going on for a while now. 3.5, if you want to go that far back, when Wizards of the Coast somehow decided old people suck, you don't play our game, and we don't want to make product for you. We don't want to acknowledge you. And anytime anything awful happens, we blame you for it. You hang these titles on us, Wizards of the Coast, of how awful people like I am. And how if you grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s and 2000s and you were playing old D&D, it was only these white men in the Middle West who played D&D, and nobody who was LGBTQ, nobody who was female, nobody who was Jewish, nobody who was a person of color, nobody who was disabled was allowed to play. But we came along, Wizards of the Coast, in 2014 and released 5e, and suddenly it's safe. D&D is safe again. It's a safe space. It wasn't safe before. All those women who are playing D&D since the 70s, Janelle Jaquez, Margaret Weiss, you weren't playing D&D because Wizards of the Coast would have you believe that girls weren't allowed to play, that gay people weren't allowed to play, that disabled people weren't allowed to play, that Jewish people weren't allowed to play, that people of color were not allowed to play, that it was a racist, sexist, homophobic, seething pit of awful humans who ate babies, hung out with zombies, and stepped on baby chicks and didn't buy OGGM product, which is 100% untrue. But they continue to perpetuate this rather than focusing their energy on, let's just look at this again, making a good game or putting sections in the game of how to actually play. You'll notice that the latest complaint now that the Dungeon Master's Guide is out is that there's no actual rules of how to play the game in there, despite huge chunks dedicated to that. I've seen multiple videos already where people are like, well, I read the DM's guide and it doesn't actually tell me how to DM, just like the last one. You would think that would be more important than improve quality of art. Ensure fans' voices are heard, except they don't. You don't listen to us. You insult us. And then in response, we insult you. And then you insult us. And then we insult you. And then you insult us. And then we insult you. And then you say, we're not making product for you anymore because you're awful. And we go, well, I don't want your product anyways because you're awful. So there you go. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. It's okay because Wizards is re-releasing it. I can tell you how you get those nicked plays because I make products, and you can find the links down below to all my amazing products, including the latest, my Christmas zine from the Cess Games Gear and Ammo line. Check the links down below. So, in conclusion, in responding to the video that Jerkoya and the Pickle Dragon made about Wizards of the Coast no longer wants old players, that's absolutely correct. And on one level, that is understandable because older fucks like myself are not the target audience, nor should we be. We are a niche within a niche. As long as you recognize and understand that for every 12-year-old kid that's buying D&D now, there's a 55-plus-year-old nerd out there who wants to get a copy of Keep on the Borderlands because they couldn't afford it or find one when they were 12. Now, Wizards was smart. They would say 80% of our product line is for the 5e kids, but we acknowledge that there are older players who want the older stuff. We have the older stuff. Why don't we make it available in super special deluxe pine-scented gluten-free versions where we can charge you $150 for Keep on the Borderlands? And most of us would be like, that's fine. I mean, I've got $150 and I love what you've done with it. You just look at what Goodman Games did with Keep on the Borderlands. And that was like $55 at the when it originally came out. But they don't. They don't. They just completely have decided we are not worth their time. And again, they hang these negative connotations on us, which doesn't make Wizards of the Coast look good. It just makes Wizards of the Coast continue to look like a petulant, angry child who isn't getting their way. And of course, some of the responses Wizards of the Coast gets from us, we're also petulant, angry children who don't get our way. And then that just continues the negative connotations that are associated with the hobby. And let's face it, the 5 golden years we had of being cool are over. We're going to go back to little teeny groups. It's probably better if the little teeny groups got along because I want to play. I fucking haven't played a game in 2 years, well, that you know of. I would love to play a 5e game. If, Harmony Ginger or somebody said, hey, I'm running 5e, you want to join? In a second. If people came to me and said, I want you to run 5e, I'd be like, sure. Just understand that I'm blah, 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 blah. But that's a separate topic. So there we go. There's my response. Link down below if you want to check out the video that Jerkoya and the Pickle Dragon made about the topic. If you really feel you don't want to spend your money on Wizards of the Coast product, it's your money. Spend it on whatever's going to bring you the most joy. Obviously, I prefer you spent it on my stuff, but you don't have to. And again, shame on you, Wizards of the Coast. You could have handled this way much better, but you don't. And yet somehow you still fail forward. Somehow Wizards of the Coast still makes money despite this self-destructive attitude that they have adopted since 2014. Well, really, since 3.5. We love your money. We hate you. We hate the past, but we'll stand on its shoulders and advertise it. Just wait till they turn on the current crop of players, which is going to happen and is already starting to happen. Anyways, I'm the OG GM. Stay safe out there. There's this, if you're living where I am, you've got to deal with super fast winds and smoke and fires and locusts. And I'm sure wherever you're living, there's something going on too. So just stay safe out there. Have a great day. Buy my merch and I'll talk to you all later. Because
laughing aloud now, magic in the air. Wands swirl around us, cast away our care. Friends in the hallways, adventures we find. Spells and enchantments, trouble on our mind. That's so wizardful, oh, oh, oh. Life is a spell we know. We're casting joy